Hello and welcome back to the Nasty Metal Production Channel here at YouTube, and welcome to another thread response video. Now, of course, this is a thread video. The thread is, of course, over at Darcy 6 Streams 9 Lives YouTube channel. This, of course, the thread title is The Chosen Few. Basically, the whole idea around this thread is basically if there was a nightmare scenario and you have to at least take 10 albums. Now, technically, for they don't have to really be your favorite albums or whatever, but you just have to take the 10 because of this is only that they can take. Because if you have to restart your whole collection, everything, you have to take these 10, and this is basically just, again, your beginning sort of collection at least, so you can start over, whatever. That's the best I think I can kind of sum it up the whole idea around it. But of course, with that, there's also rules with this thread. Basically, you only can take 7 studio albums, and you have to take at least only 3 live albums. No compilations. So, with that, before I get into the 10 albums that I have chosen, let me get into the ones that I pretty much, by the way, disqualified. Because since you brought up no compilations, I can't bring, let's say, some of the stuff from my box sets. For an example, Ted Nugent's Weekend Warriors. If I had a standalone copy of this, let's say maybe on vinyl, I probably would have easily put this within my my list and everything of 10 albums. I would have, because for me, this is probably right now still by far one of my favorite Ted Nugent albums, at least from his solo stuff. Because I've heard the first album many times. Free for All, I've heard a lot since growing up. And of course, I've heard Cat Scratch Fever. I've heard Scream Dream many times. Of course, many of those. I've heard all of those. So, this is one I somewhat have listened to the least at times, because it wasn't one I listened to when growing up, but this is still one of my favorites from his. But because of this is from my box set, I can't bring this along. Because that means I'm going to have to bring those other 4 albums or so within that set. So, automatically disqualified. Same goes for ZZ Top. I've heard those 70s sounds quite a bit, but I think the ones I've heard from the 70s the least at times is DeGuello. And this is a damn good record, album, and I probably would have also put this within my 10. But it's from the box set, so I can't bring it. And then Saxon, of course, the box set, I can't bring them in leather, and it's a good album, but I just can't bring it because it's from a box set. So, that is out of the way. I want to, seeing I'm at 3 minutes here, I want to at least keep this under 15 minutes. Alright, so, finally, let's get into the albums that I've pretty much have decided not to pick because I've listened to these a whole lot. That was only one for the fact that those got disqualified because of them being part of a comp or part of a box set. And to me, that automatically probably will disqualify them. So here we go. CD here, since I brought up Weekend Warriors. I've heard this sound many times. That's, of course, is Double Live Gonzo. It's a live album, but I've heard this many times growing up. It's a great album. I've heard it many times, so I don't need to hear it again, so it's not coming. Now, the other 9, of course, that brings me to, like, again, Back in Black. Take this out of here. I heard the sound many times, so I don't need to hear it again. So, back in, because the glare right now, there's a lot of glare. I could probably turn the light off, but right now I got records on top of me. So, that's that. Smear for Vengeance. I've heard it many times. I don't need to hear it again. Paranoid by Black Sabbath. Don't need to hear it again. But it's a great album. But, again, I don't need to hear it again. Number the Beast. Even though I just recently picked this up just a month ago or 2 months ago here in Susanville, or at least here in town. Oops. anyways, it's not a... Anyway, still, I've heard the sound many times growing up. I've got it on CD and everything, so I don't need to hear it again. Great album, but I just don't need to. Same goes for also this one. Secret Trees from Blue Oyster Cult, one of my favorite albums from Blue Oyster Cult, but I don't need to hear it again. And of course here with Def Leppard, that's of course is High and Dry. I've heard it many times growing up, but I don't need to hear it again. It's a great album, but I don't need to. So, there you go. There are the 10 albums there that I've already heard, and they're not coming with me in this scenario. So let's get into the actual albums and everything that I have heard. So let me kind of turn off something for a little bit. Let's see if I can get it. Here we go. That should be better now. That was a little bit too much lighting. Alright, so finally, let's get into the 10 albums that I will bring. So let's get into CDs though, because I don't have these on record. So, first one, since I just mentioned AC/DC with Back in Black. What is the AC/DC album I will bring? I've heard many of those AC/DC albums though. I've heard them a lot. So which one am I going to bring? Rock or Bust, which is their most recent album still, unless they release something this year, because there's a lot of those talk, which I'm not going to get into. It will just extend the video. But this was their last album, released in 2014, and it's still an album that, here, even though I have played it a few times since then, it's still one that I still have yet to completely digest as much as I did with those albums, like, you know, everything from the 70s to the 80s and stuff, the Bon Scott era, the Brian Johnson era. This is still part of it, but it's their more modern, more recent one still. And even though as much as I played it, it's still not an album that I bring to, at least I would take out whenever I'm really in an AC/DC mood. But it still is a good album, so for sure I'll instead take this. First live album. Since I already mentioned Number of the Beast, and I've heard at least a bit of those 80s albums anyways, which one will I bring? Instead, I'm going for a live album, because I couldn't bring, a real live dead one. It's basically a compilation of both a real live one and a real dead one, so I can't take that. But I will take this. There's a more recent live album, The Book of Souls, live chapter, new live album and everything from 2 years ago. Great album. I actually think that this is a solid live album, and for sure this is coming with me. So there you go, bringing along some Live Maiden. Now, I just recently picked this one up recently, and I've heard this album at least a few times on the internet and everything, but I just had to have a copy, and right now I just can't get it. And so this album, I will bring along anyways from this artist. That's, of course, is Fighting from Thin Lizzy. Now, the reason, of course, I bought it is, spoiler, I'll be doing a top favorite albums of 1975. So, that's the reason, but again, just listen to this. This is a damn good record from Thin Lizzy. Of course, introducing Brian Robertson and Scott Gorham. But this is a damn fine album, and for this one, I definitely will bring this along with me. Even if I have this on record, it will definitely come along. It's a damn good album from Thin Lizzy, and will definitely just keep me to some great enjoyment and entertainment. So, Thin Lizzy with Fighting. Alright, finally to the records. So, since I also brought up like Judas Priest with Simmer for Vengeance, which one will I bring? Back to some live albums. Since I've already heard the Priest live album from the 1980s for a lot of time. I've heard that since growing up. But this one is still a good album. I've never really much listened to it very much, even though it's a great album. I've heard it at least a few times. But I will bring it along no matter what. That's, of course, is Unleashed in the East. Which is a classic Judas Priest album in its own right, and it pretty much has a lot of the 70s material anyways. Because I've heard Rock and Roll many times, I've heard Sad Wings many times, I've heard Stained Class many times, Sin After Sin many times, I've heard even Killing Machine very many times. But they are in their live form, and I've never met much, acquainted with them as much, but it's a great live album, and it's a great album from Judas Priest, so for sure, it's coming along. Time finally to throw in a curveball. Because I've already talked about some obvious ones. How about I bring up something I've never talked about? And this is an artist you'll never expect me to talk about on my channel at all. The fact that I'm being caught dead talking about this one person is going to be almost cringy in some points. That's Bryan Adams. You're never going to hear me talk about this fucking guy at all. Never. But, out of all some of the ones at least I've heard, the only one I got is Cuts Like a Knife, and I think that album's kind of mediocre, and I think there's a reason for why it never caught on when it first was released. But anyways, that's of course his Reckless, probably his most famous album anyways. But for me, I just put this on a few weeks, like a month ago and everything. I was just wanting to revisit at least some stuff I've never given much chance to. And I decided to sort of revisit this person. And out of the two, this is actually one I end up liking quite a bit. Is it the most amazing thing I've heard? No. But it's actually a solid listen. Probably the most consistent. Probably also at times pushes more towards hard rock at times. Especially with songs such as Kids Wanna Rock and Ain't Gonna Cry. But, which of course, funny enough, Kids Wanna Rock was actually covered by Sodom years later in like 1990 for the Better Off Dead album. Very funny, but it's actually one of the best songs off this album, and it's actually a decent album, so for some curveballs and for some interesting listens, this is definitely coming along. So, and I don't care to get into any of this stuff even before this or after this. This is pretty much all that I need, because I could give a shit. So, there we go. It's back to the more obvious stuff. One live album I will bring along, and I've heard a bit of this band very much, and I've spotlighted this in my vinyl tag. It's Rainbow. That's on stage. It's the second live album actually the third. This is the last one I'm bringing along, and it's a great live album from Rainbow. It has pretty much all the stuff like Kill the King, Men on the Silver Mountain, Mistreated, Starstruck, Catch the Rainbow, and 16th Century Greensleeve. So it's a classic album, and it's coming along. Now, when it comes to Motorhead, I've heard plenty of the classic albums and everything onwards, so there is only one classic album that I actually will bring along. And that's, of course, this Ace of Spades. It's a killer album still, and it's one of the ones I've also kind of listened to the least. But it's still a great album. I still listen to it quite a bit. But it's also one that I've listened to quite a least for some reason. But it's a great album, so for sure, Ace of Spades is coming along. So, with that, what is an obscure album I'll bring along? There is only one. Fire in the Brain by Oz. Great album, and definitely an album I've listened to quite a bit, but I don't pull out very many often. So, with that, it's coming along, and for how hard that it is to actually come across a cheap copy of this album, since this was given me from Fifth Pop Boom, it's for sure coming along. Now, back to more obvious, we gotta have at least something from Scorpions, which one I'm bringing along. Blackout. Classic 80s album from Scorpions. I've heard pretty much like Love Drive and Animal Magnetism quite a bit in some of the 70s stuff. So, since I don't actually have most of the 70s stuff, this is actually one I will bring along. That's, of course, yes, Blackout, which is a great album from Scorpions. Last one, back to something obscure, and I never showed any thrash. So, I have to bring a thrash record along, and I think this is actually a decent record for what it is. As, of course, is the first Defiance from Agony, their only record. Which they're, of course, out of Sweden. I did a Album of the Week spotlight on this album, so it's definitely a killer record from start to finish, and for sure, it's coming along with me. So there you go. Those are the 10 albums that I am bringing along. So, with that, if you've never checked out Darcy 6 Trains 9 Lives channel, definitely check out his channel. It's a great, definitely a cool cat. So with that, hope you enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed this thread response. So with that, until then, This is Thrasher Sam out. And I'll see you all later. Take care, everyone. Made it 15.